I like to stand when I read. Hi, I'm Alicia Wright. I'm so grateful to Square Books and Off Square for hosting us, and for Melissa for helping arrange that, and to Jude. And Cody-Rose and I had a great time during our chat this morning about paths to publishing with students at the university, so that was great. Thank you. And yeah, so my book, this book is, I'm really excited to read this book in this context, not least because I grew up in Georgia as an aspiring literary person, and Square Books was always, a place that I wanted to have the chance to get to read at someday, and now that gets to happen for me, so I'm very grateful. And so usually I have to qualify with, in other places, saying, also, can you all hear me on the mic? Great. I usually have to say, I'm from Georgia, and then get into the context of this work, which is very historical and very location-based and very archive-based, but I don't really have to say that to any of you, I don't think. So, all right. Sotto voce abandoned barn. What eaves know, host to swallow's nest, a rat snake's ribbing wrap. That thinking is like that. Pine planked, gray honeycomb pining for originary use, alfalfa tang, and in mind stench, mind abandoned roadside, left like a mine falling in. From the highest angle nests the densest dark, riding weather like a carriage to the ground, tucked in cedar, orange froth, circling nail heads, falling out. That thought gripped between my teeth and hammer claws, the prayer I will not say's been prayer, all the while I've been living here. Do not labor with your prayer like a hammer. The barn's a colony of wood dissolving in the dark. Holding the line. Through the winter, I walked from the stone house to the river, knowing only some of the purplish berries' names. Must be beautyberry, I'd note while treading down the hill, slick on the hill, but for patches of inch-high moss, little firs, their luminous, light-thatched green, their star-cut bristles. That's what I look for, what's intricate, rather than let my sense lead me afield. The fact is, I have to reconcile myself, if I want to go further than I have, to poetry's status as many things. How far can I go, and yet still come back? Boot-slip, storm-felled pines. I could stop again over the broken glass edging through the clay. That'd be one way to think over liquid partitions, lodged in a hillside. In cascades progress they appear, prongs, ephemera, as though these angles have no master. Fingerless gloves and the globes of rain droplets orbing from the red berries, not holly, hard. I find to think of meaning, its source, hard and round, water spilling over my fingertip. I touch it, ruin it. Water soft, a walk to the river. How far does this stretch, I think, while lines nearly edge through pitiful volunteers, impressions shading forward, tan pine needles lining a path taken nearly every day, as long as I can stand the cold. I lap the field's counter where the ground goes marsh, depression. How to reconcile parts to poetry I could not feel. The first time I found the gray fur, then the orange webbing trailing 30 coiled feet behind, snagged, coyote's paw cinched, puffed, newly abandoned. I'd heard mewling at night, but mistook it. Death calls. And so listening for notes of my own, I'd misapprehended the real sound. I thought of the coyote and thought, fur, bowed back neck, sink of muscle. I watched, noted it becoming bone. I walked through the blackberry brambles' frosted arc on Christmas Eve morning, and I did not lie down with it. I did not lie yet, though I longed to. Whatever meaning may be, I wouldn't make it, not there, even as the king snake, usually underground, slipped past my hand, resting on the wet leaves, watching the river water move over the weir, even as poetry, like the water, kept a low current. The last mid-afternoon, I stood in a gaze at the overlook, having forgotten myself, nearly still. In a stretch of seconds, the shepherd mix, following the incoming truck, crept around the bend. It fixed upon me, stepping low, lowering crouch, lowering its dead eyes, my thigh. The man waited seconds, then called his dog off. He waited as animal fear filled me, his whistle as master. Thought of a torn leg, the dog's jerking mouth. I walked back up to the pink sky, early fleabane catching my eye, the house obscured on the ridge, a thistle, as though a flower might cohere. This poem is in the historical mode in the book, and it's called a seldoma, and it is the name for the plot of land. Stop me if you know this already, but you might. It's the name of the plot of land that Judas bought with the money he got for betraying Jesus. And in some versions, in one of the versions of the story in the Bible, the instant that Judas steps onto the land, he explodes, which is kind of crazy. And that isn't exactly what happens here, but it does in a manner of speaking. And it's also set in what is now called East Tennessee, in and around the early part of the 19th century, about a traveling preacher. A seldoma. Burning being, gathering mass, a man on horseback, low-flung meteor, borne down with purpose, unfurling over the ridge, God's anonymous muscle, moonless shadow, denser than his horse's vessels, tremor and contract, under intent, no step his own, divinely guided between outposts. If a man has no land, he might still possess the words of the Father which spread with him, imagining bread as ashes, giving thanks for his endurance, incarnate state, vesture of wildflowers, here a vast green, luxuriant meadow, in his vision beauty that surpasses, springing up in all directions, as much as the eye can take, countlessness given and adorned for him, wild strawberries so profuse, his horse's hoofs staining deep red as they tread, for him, his thoughts the seed, himself the lone post oak, each cell a spur, for he's received that which cannot be exchanged, the word become his word alone. Portent requiring dispersal, his mission replicates a dandelion whose detonated head falls along the conical hill, obliterating coreopsis like 30 silver pieces gotten when he lands, a betrayal severing communion, darkest lightning in the somber belts of timber. I've learned the hard way I really need water before, during, and after this poem, so. Okay. This poem has something called epistrophe, which is the opposite of anaphora, which means there's a phrase that's repeated at the end of the line, and there are lots of lines and lots of usages of this phrase, and we can maybe talk about its composition later if you want. There's a lot of information and references. Drawn from this, actually, there might be a copy around here somewhere called like the Southern Encyclopedia of Culture or something like that. Yeah, grew up with that hanging around my house. Okay. Everything that rises. One after another, the angel of history, women, rural, 9, 1536, 1547, 1550, the angel of history, 1551, 1559, in business, 147, and the angel of history, athletics, 245, 46, 565, and education, the angel of history, 266, 1533, 1536 through 38, and flowers, 340, the angel of history, 385, folkways among 451, 452, the angel of history, I can no longer hear the music, the angel of history, singings all day, 1039 through 40, the angel of history, sit-ins and civil rights movement, the angel of history, Southern Literary Messenger 909-933, the angel of history. Big Thicket 335, 350, 377, the angel of history. A cast iron farm bell, the angel of history. The bell rest friable, the angel of history. In the fricative air between tolls, the angel of history. Make a basket of kudzu twines, the angel of history. Though these forms are less common, the angel of history. Shoot the chutes. We had been in swimming and we had the angel of history. Hibbits, African folk, 15th century and contemporary, the angel of history. Art, among other things. The Cottonlandia Museum and the angel of history. 648, history and manners, the angel of history. I heard my mother ring the bell for the angel of history. The king snake in a bush, a branch painted, the angel of history. A dream of the red and black snake, the angel of history. Around my throat tightening, the angel of history. The horse boys shouting in the dark street, the angel of history. Nothing's captured political office and established nativists, the angel of history. Would the angel of history know when memory, the angel of history. Father's House, 1978, is a grim novel exploring future, the angel of history. Let Gaines rest, the angel of history. In peace, the angel of history. The monograph had been adhered to, and the angel of history. 1838, copper plate, the angel of history. He asked, what about sin? I'd forgotten. The angel of history. South has all but vanished, the angel of history. The fracture in the ledger grave marker, the angel of history. The dog that bit my father digs in it, the angel of history. Most artists in the South have embraced the tenets of the angel of history, what is loosely called modernism. The angel of history. Hot knobs of the rooms I cannot enter, the angel of history. Wreckage upon wreckage, the angel of history. What calls from the dead in the flat air, the angel of history that I can hear, the angel of history. Mass in a Norman-style Episcopal church in the South, the angel of history. Mothballs and tin in the slat shelf pantry, the angel of history. Collapse in her last kiss, the angel of history. Technocolonialism, the barbs on the wire, the angel of history. Illy Tim 49, image of 1492, the angel of history. Bottle trees 495 through 496, the angel of history. Into the hulls of westward racing ships went the angel of history. Went bags of letters desperately calling, the angel of history. A tithe purloined cankers the whole estate, the angel of history. The ledger, the fissure, the sin of the dog, the angel of history. May at his peril further go, the angel of history. Clay claws, the slippery elm leaf spray, the angel of history. 386 as symbol, 586 and concurrent, the angel of history. Myself no better than the angel of history. The blood from my mouth, the angel of history. The fourth escaped into the tall August sugar cane, the angel of history. Oh man, okay. This is a poem in the form of a requiem. Requiem with flamingo flock. Picture roseate necks extending into sun-warmed water, the red dipping under palmate shadow, the saw palms, petiole spines, languid bend in salt air with 100 calls, calling interlaced in reflection, webbed feet lifting sand plumes, legs back-angled, faces grazing, hooked bill as two palms cupped together, then sailing away without flapping their wings. And just on the horizon, there was this huge line of pink. In Gaffney, South Carolina, for Mullinax Inc., a lady's hat design affixed flamingo plumage in a braid along the rim, a wreath, the natural curvature of the feathers molded around the head in a coquettish cap, leaving birds' original skin discarded in sheaths and the carcasses to eat. A naturalist's 1860 account describes how, when the birds would molt, he and a hunter waded through the marsh to take them bulletless by the hand. Bird by bird, he took 100 from the flock to sell their meat. Let us remember them. Elusive prize, a colony sighted on a mudflat, would often disappear when hunters would return, their local guides unable to account for why they'd gone. A flamingo was killed in or before 1868 by a Captain R.S. Sheldon who, quote, worked 5 or 6 hours to get it, who skinned it and stuffed it, a skill he'd learned from an Englishman who'd come to Florida before the Civil War. He wrote, "It is the only flamingo I ever saw in Florida." Audubon's account remarks, "They usually move in lines." Other enterprising men would write to him in hints. The flamingo is a kind of bird that lives in lagoons, having a communication with the sea. By canoe, bateau, by wading shoulder deep in alkaline-tinted mangrove mud, the men did pursue the shy, rose-colored, scarlet birds into the salt flats so deep within the swamp's interior the names of sites and records slip, likely one island but possibly another, a river mouth, the salt lake, the reservoir, the slick embankment downstream by 1 mile, to find the secretive flock inhabiting Mud Lake 24, so called in state. Where are you, waiter? Do you know your footing among the water lilies, beach verbena, button bushes? Phenocopterus ruber pedaling in lagoons, umbrella silhouettes, stock still on awnings, cotton shirts, straw hats shading reddened faces. Profligate flamingos, casino profits. Now they're taking Vegas. They sip fruits on beaches, which for them means possibly 3 partners. Wild birds. Hunters thought they had eliminated them by 20th century start, but Alice found a mallet uncooperative for the Queen's rigged croquet game. Its neck dropped limp before her swing, or strike on an unending pitch where death's the stake. In the flock, the signals shift, a honk, a swerve of neck, a high tide plash. Will glide at glimpse, at lightning strike. The sawgrass sears. It saw, they've seen. The ocean of the Gulf is slate, the ocean of the Gulf is mirror. Arrow-legged they trace their migratory pattern in clouds from Cuba, where they nest if they decide some spring. There are notes obscure where they keep their home. It is the key, is Mexico. It is all land that bowls the Gulf's expanse. It is no mystery, but that our mystery is why we will not locate home from home and right to rest. A neck bends backward for to preen. A neck is serpentine, is filter, flute. A beak is islanded, tangerine to jet blackened as each wing edge. An eye is bigger than a brain, is always golden in a head. Tongue sifts salty from the clear. Tongue flicks flickering 100 times a lick. A tongue so sure in a sloped mouth, 1,000 sensing bristles drink the lake. In a disturbance of words within words, a field is founded, flamingos folded, colony to colony, and so unnoted, found. They are not mine, not spoonbills, so similar and warm in color, mind. More that they swill this mudded earth, draw shrimp glow, seed glow, blue-green algae glow to color feather. They hear their fledglings calling from inside its egg before its hatch and speak it back. They drink, give back in particle. Milk made in throat, seeped out from mouth, their young straight beak alights to careful ladle. How they deposit every drop. How this secreted drip, flush with carotene, depletes its makers, fills the blank and squawking fledgling up to color, red nectar droplets spilling down its head, blood close, and his blood from the head. See? Thank you.
Hello. Fuck. Sorry. I have to adjust. Just a little bit. Thank you for having us. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Oxford. I'm reading from my new book, This Household of Earthly Nature, which is from a Hannah Arendt essay, quote, I don't remember. Whatever. But the thing is, the book is like this. It's like lots of words. And so the thing to do is I sort of pastiched a bunch of pieces together so that they will be all as one. So I'm just gonna drop us somewhere, and then I'm just gonna keep going for a while, and then I'm just gonna stop. So we get dropped sort of in the middle, but it's a book that is a lot about like industrial agriculture which is a funny thing to say about a poem, I guess. And also just sort of about like learning how to live in this sort of weird time that we live in now. Like we still have to eat food out of the ground, and we're also putting satellites in space. It's pretty weird. So, like I said, I'm just gonna start and I'm gonna keep going. The book has a lot of epigrams, but the one that I'm gonna read is from Jean Toomer's sort of masterpiece of a long poem called The Blue Meridian. And it was originally called, that poem was originally called Brown River Smile, and it's sort of about the Mississippi. And it's a sort of masterpiece of this idealized America where the sort of brotherhood of all Americans come together to take care of each other in the world. So we didn't get that version of the future, but we can still hold a candle for him and all of us. So this is from that. The prairie's sweep is flat infinity, the city's rise is perpendicular to farthest star. I stand where the two directions intersect, in any town or country in the land, level with my fellow men, right-angled to the universe. What is or isn't shared? It's not nothing, actually. Unfortified city, 5 gigabyte videos of dinosaurs streamed from the Smithsonian Museum. Answer of a billion, trillion, quadrillion beings, functional infinities of bugs, quiet moss, air flight controlled data maps in real time. Short window of our own consciousness, loves, and over there, standing tall, shrouded death with her hourglass and scythe in the ethanol field. Sunflowers, 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 all. What is or isn't shared and who you share it with, corn planted out with robotic arms in endless rows, marching toward the sunset, to sit down to eat with your family, if you have that, a small repetitive task, ritual kinship of every living thing. We are calling to ask you about your car's extended warranty. Bless me in the sepulchre and let the cool night air wring a few more hallelujahs out of me. From gas pump to gas tank, from sea to shining other sea. Touch with your imaginary mind each soul or sentient spark in the fertilized eons that has went before, that may or may not come after. Pour one out for them. This is their world we live inside. They built it for us, boat on the lake of our soul. They who invented the wheel, the well pump, the family unit, Silicon Valley, zero, the backyard grill, the totem, emblem, symbol, and sign, the wireless telephone, the microchip, prayer, oil refinement, chemotherapy, the calculations of the orbits of stars. The algae that blooms in our collective mind. The helicopters that were in our collective mind. The traffic jams that stretch into the sunset. The great falcons still nest on the taiga, the osprey on telephone poles. We hatch fish in fish hatcheries and stock them in all the rivers and lakes of America. Think about the genetic mutations in a pineapple. Think about the cost of a pineapple. Think about the land cleared for farms and the networks of roads and highways and shipping lanes used to transport inputs like fertilizer and outputs like pineapples. Think of each hand and what else those hands touch every day. Children, dishes, genitals, phones, machine-fabricated parts of our built world, door, handle, subway rail, ritual objects of daily motion, daily objects of ritual motion, coffee mug, asphalt, gas nozzle, phone charger, outlet. These are the blessings we have to say if we want the world to be beautiful as it is, not as it was in our imagination. We sowed salt into the fields that they could not grow. Top 10 resilient food crops for a hotter future, free shipping from the past to now. Time's arrow and life's desire for itself, if there are 100 million seeds, if there is one drop of rain, if there is a net amount of force, if there is a season, then there will be a flood. There will always be something next. Of that you can rest assured. We just won't be here to see it from our spaceships in the outer orbit, endless forms most beautiful, prosciutto pink and thin sliced from the store. You can be happy here. Now we will build some new relation with this young dumb thing electric that has its hold of us. Be gentle with us at it, weird new cathedral. Teach us how to worship, how to unlock the next level in the game the universe is playing with itself. architect, archetype, viaduct and sewer commissioner board, bless. Men who have blessed other men, permission to live amongst you, permission to grow grain, to modify the corn, to cultivate a blue flower for your soul, which is my soul and all the souls of men. Permission to build the greatest city on earth, permission to build an internet, permission to launch satellites across the night sky like this, bless. Permission to mine silica, salt, uranium, iron, coal, bless. Permission to drive on the rutted and crumbling highways of America, permission to zoom in on Google Maps, the Grand Canyon, the Great Lakes, the Mississippi River, the Big Apple, the Rocky Mountains, Cincinnati, bless. What wind blows today? Where does the rain fall? What is the price of gas? Crude oil pumped through miles of conduit, regalia of factions, Razorback Stadium, insignia and pride flag, bless. I'm sorry I made a mistake, the tweet reads. It's my first time being alive. Oh, ungod, please take us all out, back to the paradise city where the grass is green and the girls. What freedom is. Humans are always dancing. Juvenile humans love to dance. Fold the beauty down in the racket of, hold the beauty deep in the socket of, fold the ordinary down in the whole expanse of, halt the crane on its tracks on the 4-lane highway where I opened my error up and stepped over the ordinary beauty of the down-bolted world. Why not watch a relaxing 2-hour live squid cam from the Monterey Bay Aquarium? A YouTube time-lapse video of Pangea splitting apart, zoom out, to me standing in my kitchen dicing summer squash, sauteing its pale green flesh in bacon fat and lemon juice. The James Webb Telescope is taking pictures of the early universe. My dogs are asleep on the couch covered in stars. Permission to be happy, permission to feel alive, permission to not be in pain, permission to let the dying things die, permission to not think about dying, permission to let the wine turn to vinegar in the glass. The bread rises somewhere between the yeasts and the singing. To calculate the trajectory of each atom in motion would be to predict the entire future. No, say that there is chance built into the system, slight perturbations in an unstable equilibrium, as if it were a vast and seamless net flowing into time, as if we were fish returning to the rivers of our birth, hatchlings in the vast and seamless net so weave. We are hardwiring the universe outside of time, just for this one small moment on Earth, a blip here, a blip there, blinking once or twice, folding over, maintaining this little disequilibrium we call a household, a body, a life. Decay of an unstable orbit. Caterpillars are eating holes in the mainframe. Fish are spawning and dying in the rivers. Don't worry. This is how it has always been. This is the efficient flow state of matter between time and time. This is where we will build the nuclear reactor. This is where the asteroid hit. Frying fish in the fry baskets of the universe, weird grapes, weird wine, weird human minds, human tools, inverse relation of longing to longing. Time's seeds germinate at night as a water drop reflects. I fill up each day as if I am filling up a cup, as if I am rolling a small rock up a small hill, as if time was a material I move through. Accretion, acceleration, disk, dilation, conception of the many spheres, dial-up, era of ozone layer, era of hormone replacement therapy, era of synthetic oil for high mileage engines for $34.99, era of digital data, era of emailing your mother YouTube videos of baby animals. Would you upload your consciousness to a distributed processing cloud if you could? Would you inject nanorobots into your bloodstream to edit your genes to not suffer genetic anomaly of the data stream, heart defect, throat cancer, fibroids in the transcriptase? We still die in this era of infinite horizons, flickering lights, specialize me, instruments at every level, fractal of endless coastlines, calculus of sand grains, human-sized feet, limbs, human-sized lives lived out in the speeding superhighway of time, human-sized deaths, all go down the wide watershed of the Mississippi forever. 116 degrees in Sacramento yesterday, the radio says the state is asking via text message alert for people to voluntarily reduce their electricity usage to avoid rolling blackouts in the power grid. Okay, shared world, can we handle it? Or will it break us just now when we are so close? 3 perfect romaine hearts raised in the fields opposite Mercy. 3 perfect romaine hearts, a light emerald green wrapped in clear plastic. 3 perfect romaine hearts for $4.99 in the temperature-controlled aisles of paradise. Salt and mayonnaise and soft pajamas in the aisles of paradise. The volatility of the markets, the humpback singing in the sea, blue is the color of my heart, ventricle and atrium of tides, the frivolous prayers set down next to the broken drive chain of the universe, wedding vows next to axle shaft, kinship rituals, timing belts, death rites, whole ecosystems of love, violence, oxytocin, belonging, socket sets, gesture, scent, signal, mechanism, grief, constraint. And then there was 2 billion years of the sounds of rocks grinding. This is only a test. This is a test of the city's emergency warning system. This is only a test. It's like you always come to town on a Tuesday. I am lying in the sun with our 3 dogs, and Mark is standing over me, taking a picture of us. Like this, memory needs tending, us notching off days in the long femur of time, days which are just rotations into and out of the field of the sun. Solar system, metronome, binomial pulse percent heartbeat of, permission to eat the rotisserie chicken of suffering, in the truck in the parking lot while the sun sets, permission to acknowledge the despair, gnawing at the edges, permission to close our eyes, just for an instant, see the galactic static waiting there. When I get home, I water my garden in the dark, Sagittarius drawing his bow at the crescent moon in front of me, Cassiopeia at my back. Do you know what way I'm facing? I am facing away from earth, holding a rubber snake of water, trying to hold a circumference in my mind's eye opening outward. To tend what needs tending is a constant practice. Use it or you lose it, the physical therapist says. I think of electricity sparking short between neurons, a signal with nowhere to go. Google suggests which bird has the nicest song. I click on it. Weekly total screen time, 11 hours and 39 minutes, quote, and all these, having obtained good testimony through faith, did not receive what was promised. Okay, Google, debug this system, why don't you? Debug this garden of its earthly delights, its violent ends. You must stock your own pantry, pantheon, rivers. You must be alive to experience misery, mystery, mastery. You must create your own password. It can't be the same as your old password. You do not have to grow your own vegetables. You just have to walk on your knees through the desert repenting. Have we been made more beautiful in your image? Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow, bread, in the sweat of thy face, swollen globe and global fruit supply. I have never known those 4 horsemen they say ride behind us. I grew up on the internet in the year 3 of our World Wide Web. I put pictures of the sunset on social media. I take 60 gazillion photos of my dogs every single day. I buy a pineapple in Arkansas in Zone 7 in January. I have all my teeth. I put powdered bovine collagen in my coffee. I feel I have a moral imperative to blow up all the fossil fuel infrastructure and fall off into the universe. Just kidding. I love it here. I love driving as religion, the smell of gasoline, America's highways, looking out the window as it changes, going to the store. My DNA is trying to survive, and who am I to deny it? I will buy it bright fruits from the well-lit aisles of the universe. I will give it vitamin supplements in the morning. It is nice to eat an orange thing in winter, yellow things glowing in an angled beam of sunlight on the counter. So blaze, small drop of sun, a lemon off a lemon tree from somewhere, a sort of sad tomato. Who is it that picks the fruits? Who is it that catches the shining fish? Who is it that touches the world for you? Whose hands are lemon-scented, inverse fruit-shaped, covered in fish scales, blood in the water, pouring out seeds, the slime and all that gasping, grasping, glinting in their myriad colors, separate gamete from bright pulp with your fat fingers, mucosal strand of the world clinging to itself, colors your human eyes can't even see, a language each to each. Do you appreciate it, all flesh, full of cells, lineage, hope, where the information is stored to build the future? Whose hand is that holding the scales? Who is it that is standing beside you? I am trying to tell you something about the architecture of time. I am trying to understand something about the structure of the shared universe. I am trying to build a nest in our minds together, out of everything, all together, as if we could bear that, poet. That it is a universe to all, but a multiverse to each, or the opposite, I don't know, vice versa. I have to go sweep my small corner of the universe the dogs track in, so much dirt. I have to make breakfast, 2 or 3 eggs on toast, the shining fats, the protein strands, the sugars, the yeasts, the sun, streaming in at an angle now. The music of the spheres is getting louder. The sound of a distant chainsaw, laughter, maybe where you are, traffic or birds or construction or wind down the canyons of avenues, honking horns, sirens, a TV in the next room, the sound of someone cooking, someone playing an instrument, vibrations in the molecules of air, the radio playing Bach or Megan Thee Stallion or Marketplace Morning Report, and the constant new hum of electricity coursing through wires, leaking its bracts and tendrils into the effulsive living rooms and countertops of our incandescent time. Isn't there some oscillating connection between a cycle and a trajectory? This is the calendar of the future, sailing outward. This is how a battery works. All cycles are rituals. Your tracking number will be provided. Think of every chicken egg on Earth right now, palm-sized fruit or cell or orbit. There is a way the present can cannibalize the future. The Pleiades come up in the power line cut now. My mother emails me, my credit cards aren't working. Please bake me a cake with a metal file in it. And the hawks are migrating again. Ants are a game played by chemicals. Humans are a game played by myth. Supply chain disruptions uncoiled. Humans are a game played by markets. Caterpillar Tractor, Texas Instruments, Boeing signed a deal for 8,000 more machinists and aerospace engineers. The GDP contracted again. This rocky birth, weird chrysalis, phase converter, please, algorithm, know which podcast to autoplay next. Nearer, my God, to thee. Weaker global activity, lower demand for grapes, what the actual price of raisins is right now in Tokyo. Speaking of apples, to dust we shall return, sunlight and sugar, atoms and the void, dimensional time, to live inside. For thine is the kingdom, the phyla, the glory, for thine is the order, the genius, the species. Don't mess this thing up for us apes of kinship and grief, at the corner of online shopping and heaven, at the corner of the combustion engine and all life on earth, under this wide swath of infinitely expanding universe. Bless, hung over in the place that sinks my 2 eyes up into one world. Bless, come, it will be a celebration. Grace in the interstice of being, we will call it another year of being alive. We will choose to call it a blessing. New Babel, New Uruk, New Arkadelphia, New Gate of all nations, new moon landing, new rain on genetically modified wheat, new blessings, new cyanobacteria crusting on the small rocks, small crustaceans exploring the chromatic topography of our mind. Let us go out and ask of it, the world. Let us go out and ask of it. The world which is hard and made of a hard materia, electron repulsion of negatively charged particles, which is all you have ever touched, neck, body of a lover, table, rock, the space between where atoms sing to the void, soprano, a cappella, queen of the night, king of the road, master of puppets, come back to me, world, work of our hands. That's all, folks. No, I don't know. What now? Does anyone have questions?
Yeah. Questions? It can be any kind of question. I saw there's a pineapple right there, right when you were talking about pineapples.
Oh, funny.
Right?
So, place is really important to your work.
Yeah.
It seems like. And how has that changed your writing since? Are you still living in Georgia, or are you in Iowa City now? And how has that changed your poetry?
Yeah, I've lived a couple places, mostly for school. So I was in Denver for my PhD, in Iowa for grad school, in New York for being in New York, and Vermont. Like I've kind of lived a few places, and really the sort of primal scene, if you will, is is the South for me, and it's sort of like the first way in which I found myself being read. You know, when you go somewhere else, and that I decided to take that as the impetus for my continued inquiry. You know, things that I took for granted, things that I thought, you know, existed in some places and didn't in others, things that exist in other places and do not in, you know, my context. And so yeah, it's really hard for me to write a poem that doesn't in some way find itself like situated by that and those concerns in place. Yeah.
I'm really curious about, this is really a question for both of you, like your book's relationship to other books. So like you've done so much archival work, and Cody-Rose, your book is like, feels like an update and correction to like all of these books of poems that have come before it, and like talks back to Whitman and Langston Hughes and like all these other poets, Gene Seymour. So yeah, I'd love to hear each of you talk about how you're thinking about those materials as you're writing or editing your work.
You go first.
I can if you want, but you
Okay,
could.
go.
Oh, okay. I wish that I were the kind of poet who could just sit down with a pen and paper and put down my thought and that would be it. Instead, like I'm very much a mess, amalgamated like a bunch of different texts, and it's always kind of this like complicated textual sort of calibration for me. And these poems, and that's just in terms of process, but almost all these poems are in this book are in some kind of vexed or complicated relationship to the existing sort of like tradition of Southern poetry in particular. And a kind of very like narrative, trope-based, familiar ritual of presenting a world and a worldview over and over again, which I found to be not what I wanted to participate in and not what I wanted to myself produce. So every kind of poem is a kind of either reference or like me kind of having a little fight, private or public, with a pre-existing poem or idea or paradigm. Yeah, and the archive is really just like my family's archive. And I would have been interested to know, my dad passed away before this book could come out, but he spent the last years of his life like painstakingly documenting, and you know, with whether or not this was a healthy process for him is up to, you know, like up for debate, but documenting everything. And it was almost a kind of like, he really wanted to present the information about like our family and its role in the small town where I come from in one way, and he wanted to share those documents and that material with me, but I really wanted to have my own interpretation of it. And so this book is very much an expression of that too.
For me, I think that this project in particular was really a project about America is like a country, right? But also it's a vast and beautiful and complicated landscape of both bioregions and cultures that raise up in those bioregions. And then when you're thinking of like the literary history of like literary conceptions of America, like yeah, you're going Whitman, you're going Langston Hughes, you're going Timur. Like there's so many. There's been so many things that feel sort of sprung up out of all these different conceptions and hopes and dreams and different Americas, and so I felt like I was sort of trying to add my little contribution. That's not quite the right word. A better way to think about it is, I'm reading all this stuff as one does, and then also, you sort of metabolize it through your own self, but the project had a lot to do with like America, and I'm in Northwest Arkansas, but so like the Mississippi's presence is so big, and like as a river, as a shipping route, as what it means when it goes dry, there's all this stuff, and then it's in a lineage and conversation because we all are, but it is sort of explicitly in that lineage and conversation with just all these sort of hopeful and strident expressions of America, and like now where are we now, and like I love this country so much as a place and as a people, and so that all sort of, you eat that and then you sort of puke out the book, I guess, or something. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else?
I was wondering with the Angel of History poem, you mentioned like we could talk about the composition of it. I would love to hear more about that poem.
Yeah, so yeah, the big giveaway is that phrase, which is a phrase taken from Walter Benjamin, who was writing about that Paul Klee figure that's very familiar. And not only so I was kind of like, epistrophe is really cool. What's something, and then I was just kind of like sitting with that idea for a while, and then I kind of was thinking about how the Angel of History functions as this kind of like punctuation mark in terms of event. And then speaking of like amassing like a pile of books, I was just thinking about debris and thinking about information and like the impossible project of trying to synthesize like things that actually happen. I'm really committed to like things that actually happen, not sort of like mythological abstractions, right? But that's an impossible project, and like most sort of like the intellectual project and like the intellectual history of the South is really can really want to move away from the hard facts of things. So I looked to this sort of like problematic encyclopedia of Southern culture and wanted to interrupt like the informational structures itself, right, by putting the Angel of History in the middle of it. And I used a kind of like, I tried to almost like simulate like the glance, or like I did just sort of like look through, glance things, get fragments, look at other books, find lines, like tried to do it all really fast and annotate that as though in a kind of like fit, I guess. I don't know. And so it's composition. I just think of it as like a composition of like the fragmented like glance, if you will, and like trying to demonstrate or like dramatize the sort of like necessity and yet impossibility of trying to comprehend things as they've come before. So thank you for asking. Yeah.
If nobody has any more questions, then I guess we'll say thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll have books for sale, and Cody-Rose and Alicia will be happy to sign them over here. Thank you.
Thank you.